Hey, Shalom, Israel, Shalom, happy Sabbath. As always, if I could be heard, please put Khan in the chat and let me know where you're tuning in from. Shalom, Shalom. Again, if I can be heard, please put Khan in the chat and let me know where you're tuning in from. I see some people commented before we went live. I just want to make sure I'm heard and and everything's audio visual as well before we get started. All right, Shalom, Shalom. Let's get started. The first question comes from the book of Lamentations, chapter 2. Sister asked, let me see, let me look at the question again. I believe the sister asks, what is Lamentations 2 and 9? She says she doesn't quite understand it. So I'll read it. This is the book of Lamentations, chapter 2 and verse 9, it says, her gates are sunk into the ground. He hath destroyed and broken her bars. Her king and her princes are among the Gentiles. The law is no more. Her prophets also find no vision from Yahweh. So the book of Lamentations is going into this is written by Jeremiah. And so when you go back and you read in the scriptures what happened during the time of Jeremiah, you have Jerusalem being trodden down. Babylon, remember in the history, Babylon destroyed Judah, right? They came and they destroyed Jerusalem. The Assyrians had already taken down the northern kingdom. And so the only house that was left was the house of Judah, the southern kingdom, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And they were taken down by the Babylonians. When you go back to 2 Kings, 2 Chronicles, you can go into that history. Even Ezekiel, Isaiah, Daniel, Jeremiah, a few others, I believe, prophesied about certain things that will happen at the hands of Babylon, right? Let me get a scripture real quick. Let's see here. Jeremiah chapter 4, right? I know a lot of brothers like to ascribe this particular verse right here to Yahweh Christ, but this is talking about Nebuchadnezzar. This is the book of Jeremiah chapter 4. I'll start at verse 3. For thus saith the Lord to the men of Judah and Jerusalem, break up your fallow ground and sow not among thorns. Circumcise yourself to the Lord and take away the foreskin of your heart. Ye men of Judah, inhabitants of Jerusalem, lest my fury come forth like fire and burn that none can quench it because of the evil of your doings. Declare ye in Judah and publish in Jerusalem and say, blow ye the trumpet in the land. Cry, gather together and say, assemble yourselves and let us go into the defense cities. Set up the standard towards Zion. Retire, stay not, for I will bring evil from the north and a great destruction. The lion is come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. So again, that's going into Nebuchadnezzar when he destroyed Jerusalem. You know, he came and caused him the destroyer of the Gentiles, because at that time, when Nebuchadnezzar came through, of course, you know, he was the champion among the nations, and he was the head nation at the time, right? Let's go to the book of Daniel real quick, right? Because I brought up Daniel. Daniel, let's see here. Well, let me go. I'm gonna go to Daniel 2 first, right? This is Daniel chapter 2 and verse I'm gonna start at 32. It says, this image's head was of fine gold, his breast and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, right? So when we go let's see here, verse 36, it says, this is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. Thou, O king, art a king of kings, for the Most High of heaven hath given thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory. And whithersoever the children of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven hath he given into thine hand, and hath made thee ruler over them all. Thou art this head of gold, right? So Nebuchadnezzar was the head of gold. But going further into it, right? Daniel chapter 7. It says, in the first year, Daniel 7:2, Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of heaven strove upon the great sea, and four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion and had eagle's wings, right? So a lion having eagle's wings, right? That's kind of dealing with the time when the Assyrians and the Babylonians were kind of neck and neck, right? You know, because some call it the Assyro-Babylonian Empire, right? Because the Assyrians, they have the griffin was their insignia, right? That was their animal. And it says, continuing in verse 4, the first was like a lion and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and it was lifted up from the earth and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. So that lion that is dealing with Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. So going back to Jeremiah 4, when it says the lion has come up from his thicket, and the destroyer of the Gentiles is on his way. He has gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without inhabitant. Again, that's going back to what Jeremiah was lamenting about, because when he's lamentation, they call Jeremiah the crying prophet. Lamentation is going into his crying, right? He's making lamentation for the children of Israel. The Bible is written very poetically, right? And so when it says, her gates are sunk into the ground, he hath destroyed and broken her bars, right? That's poetry. This is Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 2, because it says her, right? Her gates, right? Jeremiah chapter 6 and verse 2. And it says, I have likened the daughter of Zion to a comely and delicate woman. So poetically speaking, Israel, Zion, right? It's like a beautiful and, comely and delicate woman, very beautiful, very delicate. So Lamentations 2, again, is going into, it's speaking poetically, right? And so it says, her gates are sunk into the ground. How are her gates sunk into the ground? Because they were burned down, right? The gates were burned. It says, he hath destroyed and broken her bars. How does that happen? How do your bars get broken? Remember, it said in Jeremiah 4, it said, get into the defense cities, right? But even in getting into the defense cities, there was no way they could stop Nebuchadnezzar, because it was prophecy that he would have to do that, right? Let's see here. Let me get a scripture real quick, right? Let's see here. This is I'm gonna go to First Ezra, right? First Ezra in the Apocrypha, for those that are new into the faith. Ezra is a Greek variation of the name Ezra from the Old Testament, right? So let's go to First Ezra, right? Because we just read in Lamentation, it said, the gates are sunk into the ground, he have destroyed and broken her bars. Her kings and her princes are amongst the Gentiles, right? How are they amongst the Gentiles? Through captivity. Because Nebuchadnezzar, he brought forth a lot of captives, right? It said the law is no more, her prophets also find no vision from the Lord. The law is no more, meaning, our law wouldn't be the law of the earth. Not meaning the law is physically no more, because the Most High's law stands forever, right? And it's up to us to take hold of it and come back unto it. But when you're in captivity, just like us now, like our law, it doesn't reign supreme on the earth. You go out on the Shabbat, people are buying, selling, giving in all sorts of folly and commerce. They don't honor the Lord's Sabbath day, right? Passover, all these different type of things. You got to, have a 12-round fight with your boss to even get off for these times, because the Lord's law is not reigning supreme in the earth. That's why it says when Yahushua comes back, he's going to have to a rod of iron, right? He's going to have to use a rod of iron on these nations. Parts plus more, nothing. Brother's doing very well. and he's probably tuning in to this live stream just like you are. So just tell him shalom in the comments, man. I'm sure he'll see it. But the brother's alive and well, pushing in truth and sincerity, following Christ as we all should, right? So let's go to the book of First Ezra chapter 4. And you got to pay attention to what is said, right? Let's get it real quick. First Ezra chapter 4. What verse I want? Let's see here. First Ezra chapter 4. I'll start at verse 43, maybe, right? Because when you read First Ezra chapter 4, right? Is going into this competition that Zerubbabel was having with some of the other bodyguards, right? And so when Zerubbabel wins, he's asked by the king what, outside of the terms of the contest, what else can I do for you, right? So this is what Zerubbabel says. He says, I'm gonna start at 42. Then said the king unto him, ask what thou wilt more than is appointed in the writing, and we will give it thee, because thou art found wisest, and thou shalt sit next to me, and shalt be called my cousin. Then said he unto the king, remember thy vow which thou had vowed to build Jerusalem in the day when thou camest to thy kingdom, and to send away all the vessels that were taken away out of Jerusalem, which Cyrus set apart when he vowed to destroy Babylon, and to send them again. Because remember, Babylon, they had a gold, and then then the silver, that was dealing with the Persians and the Medes, right? And it says, which Cyrus set apart when he vowed to destroy Babylon, and to send them again thither. Thou also hast vowed to build up the temple, which the Edomites burned when Judea was made desolate by the Chaldees. The Chaldees, again, going into, here, you take that, open this, it's the thing. So the Chaldees, that's the Babylonians, right? And so this is what happened. Let's go to the book of Psalms, right? Psalm chapter 137. All right. And we got to remember that these things run on the loop, right? The scripture tells us in Job that wisdom is double to that which it is. A lot of these prophecies, there's duality in them, right? So this is Psalms 137. It says, by the rivers of Babylon, there we sat down. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? If I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, race it, even to the foundation thereof, meaning erase it, right? That's what Edom did. And they're the ones who burned down the temple, right? O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stone. Why did it say daughter of Babylon? Because it's letting you know that Edom is synonymous with the daughter of Babylon, right? That's Edom is the virgin daughter of Babylon, right? And so they've yet to be rewarded, right? They're fugitives in the earth. They haven't gotten their judgment, right? Their judgment has reached the heavens. I mean, their sins and their crimes have reached the heavens, right? Hey, shalom. So this is, going back to Lamentations, right? Chapter 2. This is what's going on, right? Jeremiah is poetically speaking about what happened when Jerusalem was destroyed at the hand of the Gentiles, right? Chiefly Babylon. And then, like the scripture just said in First Ezra. And in Psalms, the Edomites, they're the ones that destroyed it, right? Let's go to the book of Obadiah really quick to get more on that, more on what Esau did, because he saw his opportunity, and Esau wasn't the only one that saw his opportunity when Judah went down to when he went down against the Babylonians. Tyre and Zidon, they did the same thing. They did some wickedness too, and that's why the Most High sent Nebuchadnezzar against them. But Nebuchadnezzar, he wasn't able to fully take down Tyre and Zidon. It took Alexander to fully take them down. It didn't even take long. It took him like 5 or 6 months, right? So let's see here. Obadiah verse. Start at verse 10.
God, this is the book of Obadiah, verse 10.
Mm-hmm.
For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever.
Mm-hmm.
In the day that thou stoodest on the other side, in the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates, and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even thou was as one of them.
Even thou was as one of them. You was one of them. When Babylon came in and carried away the forces, right, and was doing what they were doing, because Babylon came in and they took everything out of the temple, the goodly, pleasant things, right? Edom was one of them. Go ahead, read.
Verse 12. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day that he became a stranger. Neither shouldest thou have rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither shouldest thou have spoken proudly in the day of distress. Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity.
You see that? You see that? That's the type of things that was going on. Imagine somebody running up in your house, right? Because that's what happened. Somebody running up in your house, and you got a larger enemy you trying to deal with, but then all these other people coming too, right? And they just taking your things. That's what happened. Babylon was the larger enemy that came against us, and that was because at the time, Babylon was the sword of the Most High, just like the Assyrian is. Sometimes when the Most High speaks about Assyria in the scriptures, the Assyrian, he's just talking about a man of great strength, because that's what they were at the time. And then Babylon became his sword, right? Just like Edom is his sword. He uses Esau. Let me get that real quick in the book of Daniel. Daniel chapter, you can hold that in Obadiah because it's one more verse. But Daniel chapter, I know it's in Daniel chapter 9, I believe. It's either 8 or 9. Let me see. Daniel chapter, you can go to Daniel 4. Daniel chapter 4. Daniel chapter 4 and verse 25.
It's the book of Daniel chapter 4, verse 25.
Because this is when the Most High punished Nebuchadnezzar. And listen to what Daniel said at the end of the verse. Go ahead.
That they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling shall be with the beasts of the field, and they shall make thee to eat grass as oxen, and they shall wet thee with the dew of heaven, and 7 times shall pass over thee, till thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men.
Not literally 7 times, but a complete number of times, right? Go ahead. And it says, thou shalt know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men. The Most High is a God of God, the King of kings, right? And so he rules in the kingdom of men. Whoever he sets up to rule the earth, he's ruling. He's calling the shots, right? And so he used Babylon at that time to punish Judah. But that doesn't mean that these other nations, chiefly Esau, should have did what they did. Because you had Esau that burnt down the temple, and then you had read Obadiah verse 14 out of one.
Obadiah verse 14. Neither shouldest thou have stood in the crossway to cut off those of his that did escape.
Yeah. Esau was wild. Like even people was escaping. It was like, nope, come on back. They were like some damn bounty hunters, man. Go ahead.
Neither shouldest thou have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of distress.
Right. And so that's what Esau did, man. And so you had Babylon, who really, really destroyed the place through their armies. And then you had Esau that burned the temple, erase it, meaning erase it. And then you had Tyre and Zidon, who were supposed to have that brotherly covenant with the children of Israel, chiefly Judah, because of Hiram and King David. You had them that were trading the persons of men. They were selling us as slaves. They rejoiced over what happened to us, right? That's why the scripture tells us never to trust our enemies. Let's get that real quick in the book of Sirach, right?
Book of Sirach, chapter 10.
Chapter 12 and 10.
Chapter 12, verse 10.
Yeah.
Never trust thine enemy, for like as iron rusteth, so is his wickedness.
And the thing about iron, man, when it rusts, like anything that rusts, you could look at it and be like, dang, like over time, it just starts to deteriorate, right? But watch this. Go ahead, next verse.
Verse 11. Though he humble himself and go crouching, yet take good heed and beware of him, and thou shalt be unto him as if thou hast wiped a looking glass.
Right. So the glass is rusted, but then you cleaning the glass off, you wiping it off, just like anything that will rust, right? You clean it and watch what happens. Go ahead.
And thou shalt know that his rust have not been altogether wiped away.
Right, you can clean something that will rust on it as best as you can. And then when you take a close examination of it, you're going to see that there's still rust there. That's just the weakness of your enemy, right?
Done.
That you look at the looking glass and you thinking you got it clean. Nah, it's still some rust there. Even your friendly neighborhood Edomite, he hasn't done wickedness because he hasn't been put in that position yet. When you ruling, you can kind of chill and relax. But when things hit the fan, you're really going to see that man's spirit. You're really going to see what he about. All you got to do is follow the language now, and you see what he about. Follow his language, and you'll see what he about, right? So now let's go to the book of Jeremiah chapter 2, because we got a question from there as well. Jeremiah chapter 2 and verse 14.
It's the book of Jeremiah chapter 2 verse 14. Is Israel a servant?
Start at verse 11 for me.
Come.
Start at verse 11.
Jeremiah chapter 2 verse 11. Hath a nation changed their God, which are yet no gods? But my people have changed their glory for that which doth not profit.
Right. So again, this is very, very kind of poetic, but it's like you have to think about it in the eyes of Jeremiah, right? Has a nation changed its God? Like that's the question, right? How can a nation change? How can a nation change their gods? Right? That's the question. Read it again.
Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 11. Hath a nation changed their gods, which are yet no gods,
which are yet no gods, because all these the gods of the nations are idols, like it says in the book of Psalms, right? Read.
but my people have changed their glory for that which doth not profit.
Go ahead.
Be astonished, O ye heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid. Be ye very desolate, saith the Lord. For my people have committed two evils, that they have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out cisterns, broken cisterns that can hold no water.
Right. A cistern is like a water fountain, right? And imagine you going to this water fountain trying to get some water and it's leaking, like you're not able to get any water out. That's what not following the Most High is like, right? That's what being in idolatry is like, right? The Most High brings forth the fountains of living waters. And our people, it says have hewn them out cisterns, right? Broken cisterns that can hold no water. That's like you're in the midst of idolatry, right? Spiritual wickedness. Go ahead. This is the verse sister had a question about, right?
Verse 14. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled?
Right. Is Israel a servant? That's the question. No, Israel's not a servant, but due to wickedness, we've put ourselves in a servile position. We've sold ourselves into slavery through wickedness, right? And it says, is he a homeborn slave? Were we born to be slaves? Absolutely not. God forbid. But look at our state and our condition. You can't blame anybody for looking at us in this state and this condition, being like, damn, them people were born to be that way. They were born to be on the bottom like that. Look at them. Yo, we have whole channels, whole television channels dedicated to the folly of our people. And people pay millions for our people to be that way. People are making millions of dollars to show forth folly. The scripture's asking, is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? Meaning, like we just read in Obadiah and all these other places, why is he spoiled? Meaning, how are we spoiled? Our possessions were taken. They cast lots on our land. They took all of our silver and our gold. Why is he spoiled? He's spoiled because he broke the commandments. He broke the commandments of the Most High. So again, when we read here, it's kind of like, it's just questions that are being asked. They're not necessarily rhetorical questions, but it's like these questions are to make you think. Like, dang, why are we in this estate? Right? Like, again, you read the book of First Ezra, 2 through 7, basically, that's what Ezra is asking about. And he's going back to Babylon because that's where it started for us, right? So stay in Jeremiah 2 and just let him go. Jump to verse 30. See, 30, because there's a question in verse 34, right?
All right. Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 30. In vain have I smitten your children. They received no correction. Your own sword have devoured your prophets like a destroying lion.
Read that again.
Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 30. In vain have I smitten your children. They received no correction. Your own sword have devoured your prophets like a destroying lion.
It says your own sword have destroyed your prophets. Not the other nation, but your own sword. Because that's how Israel was. And Christ even has a parable about that. All these people that's being sent to the Israelites, they put them to death because they're rebellious people, a stiff-necked and hard-hearted people. The people sent to you for your welfare, you putting them to death, just like they did Yahushua. Go ahead, read.
Verse 31. O generation, see ye the word of the Lord. Have I been a wilderness unto Israel, a land of darkness? Wherefore say my people, we are lords. We will come no more unto thee.
Right. Read that again.
O generation, see ye the word of the Lord. Have I been a wilderness unto Israel?
The Most High is asking, have I been a wilderness to you? Think about what a wilderness is. A dry, desolate land that brings forth no fruit, right? So it's like the Most High is asking that. Have I been slacking on you? Like, have I not shown you love? Like all the tender mercies the Most High has shown us, right? He's like, have I been a wilderness to you? Go ahead, read.
A land of darkness? Wherefore say my people, we are lords. We will come no more unto thee.
Right. We don't need you, basically. That's what we're saying. That's what our forefathers, and that's what we say to the Most High, right? Go ahead.
Can a maid forget her ornaments? Or a bride her attire?
You see that? Can a maid forget her ornament? Imagine you go to a wedding, right? And you see the bride come out, and it's like, yo, where's the sister's wedding attire at? Right? Go back to Yahushua in the parable. He said, friend, what are you wearing? You don't have a wedding garment home. Hey, man, come on, bind this man and throw him up out of here. So you go to a wedding and you see a sister without her wedding garment on. It's like, yo, what are you doing? Because any woman is definitely not going to forget her wedding garment, right? So read that verse again.
Jeremiah chapter 2, verse 32. Can a maid forget her ornaments, or a bride her attire?
The most important things to them, right? A bride, the most important thing is your wedding attire, right? Because you're going to stand out in the room knowing you're the one that's getting married, right? The bridesmaids don't wear the same thing as the bride. Go ahead, read.
Yet my people have forgotten me days without number.
You see that? Israel forgot the Most High. It's like, we don't need you. Why? Because the scripture says, just run, wax fat, and kick. Like we were spoiled. And this is the result of it, right? Go ahead, next verse.
Why trimmest thou ways to seek love? Therefore hast thou also taught the wicked ones thy ways? Also in thy skirts is found the blood of the souls of the poor innocent. I have not found it by secret search, but upon all these.
So here's the thing, right? Going back to how it said in verse 30, it said, your own sword have devoured your prophets like a destroying lion. So the Most High in verse 34 is saying, in your skirts, right? Like in your garments, is found the blood, is the blood of the souls of the poor innocents, right? So you're such murderers that the blood stains are still in your clothing. And the Most High is saying, I didn't find that by secret. I didn't have to go search to find that. It's all over you, right? Because again, there was no justice in the land. There was no true judgment, no mercy, it was nothing but wickedness. And so that's what he's saying. He's saying, in thy skirts is found the blood of the souls of the poor innocents. Because we were murdering our own people, right? Because we were in idolatry. So let's see. Here's another question. Elder Manat Zak Mayam, Shalom, Shalom, happy Sabbath. Let's see here. Yeah, that was the last one for now. So yeah, all those questions, Lamentation 2, both questions in Jeremiah chapter 2. It's all going back to that time when Nebuchadnezzar took hold and he came and he destroyed Jerusalem. Go to the book of Ezekiel chapter 17. Right? Ezekiel 17. Start at verse 1.
Book of Ezekiel, chapter 17. Verse 1. And the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, put forth a riddle and speak a parable unto the house of Israel, and say, Thus saith the Lord God, a great eagle with great wings, long winged, full of feathers, which had diverse colors, came unto Lebanon, and took the highest branch of the cedar.
Right. That's dealing with Nebuchadnezzar and how he came and took the highest branch of the cedar. He took Jerusalem, right? And with it, when you go into it, he took the fruit of the land, meaning the kings, the princes, the king, the princess, the royal family. And what eventually happened is, let me see what verse. Go to jump to verse 18.
Verse 18. Seeing he has despised the oath by breaking the covenant, when, lo, he had given his hand and have done all these things.
Start at verse 17, Ox. Start at verse 17 for me.
Count out of one. Ezekiel chapter 17, verse 17. Neither shall Pharaoh with his mighty army and a great company make for him in the war, by casting up mounts and building forts to cut off many persons, seeing he despised the oath by breaking the covenant, when lo, he had given his hand and have done all these things, he shall not escape.
Right, because here's what's going on, right? Zedekiah was trying to get away. He wasn't trying to submit unto Babylon, and he went to Egypt. Like our people love. He went to Egypt for help, and that's why I read 17 again.
Verse 17. Neither shall Pharaoh with his mighty army and great company make for him in the war, by casting up mounts and building forts to cut off many persons, seeing he despised the oath by breaking the covenant, when lo, he had given his hand and have done all these things, he shall not escape.
Right. So this is go to the book of Jeremiah chapter 39, right? No, I'm sorry, Jeremiah chapter Jeremiah 39. Jeremiah 39. You can start at verse 1 because this is the fall of Jerusalem right here.
Jeremiah chapter 39, verse 1. In the 9th year of Zedekiah, king of Judah, in the 10th month, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and all his army against Jerusalem, and they besieged it.
Go ahead.
And in the 11th year of Zedekiah, in the 4th month, the 9th day of the month, the city was broken up. And all the princes of the king of Babylon came in and sat in the middle gate, even Nergal-Shezar, Shamgar-Nebo, Shar-Shechem, Rabsaris, Negar-Shazarez, Rabmag, with all the residue of the princes of the king of Babylon.
Go ahead.
And it came to pass that when Zedekiah the king of Judah saw them and all the men of war, then they fled and went forth out of the city by night, by the way of the king's garden, by the gate betwixt the two walls, and he went out the way of the plain. But the Chaldeans' army pursued after them and overtook Zedekiah in the plains of Jericho. And when they had taken him, they brought him up to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, to Riblah in the land of Hamath, where he gave judgment upon him. Then the king of Babylon slew the sons of Zedekiah in Riblah before his eyes. Also, the king of Babylon slew all the nobles of Judah. Moreover, he put out Zedekiah's eyes and bound him with chains to carry him to Babylon. And the Chaldeans burned the king's house and the houses of the people with fire and break down the walls of Jerusalem. Then
You can stop right there. So it said in verse 7, moreover, he put out Zedekiah's eyes and bound him with chains to carry him to Babylon. That boy Zedekiah, man, he was Zedekiah was moving real rebellious. Like he didn't want to submit. And the Most High eventually, let Nebuchadnezzar do what he had to do regarding. And so that's what eventually happened to him. And his name was changed to Zedekiah, right? He became a puppet king. Go to Ezekiel chapter 17 and verse 6.
Ezekiel chapter 17 and verse 6. And it grew and became a spreading vine of low stature, whose branches turned toward him, and the roots thereof were under him. So it became a vine and brought forth branches and shot forth sprigs.
Right, because when you're dealing with this parable here in Ezekiel 17, it's going into, of course, Nebuchadnezzar coming and doing what he did to Jerusalem, right? And these trees represent men. And Zedekiah, he was made a puppet king of low stature, right? That's what happens. These armies, when they conquer you, they'll install a puppet king that will do their bidding, right? But Zedekiah, instead of listening, man, he was real rebellious, and he tried to make league with Pharaoh Necho, right? And the Most High wasn't having that, because he told him, you're going to go to Babylon and you're going to humble down. You was on the court doing some things you had no business doing, taking some shots you shouldn't have been shooting. So I'm going to sit you at the end of the bench, man. You got to chill. But, Zedekiah wasn't having that, right? And you saw what the outcome of that was. So, again, it's very imperative and very important that, we get into the scriptures and we read, this history, right? Because this history sets forth a lot of things that take place for our nation, right? And so, when you deal with Babylon and you see the characteristics of Babylon and how they are, and then you look at what we are now, you see those same type of characteristics. That's why this place is called the daughter of Babylon. Because they bear the same type of, they bear all the characteristics of our worst oppressors, right? Egypt, Babylon, Rome, of course, they roam all over again, right? They're the same people. So, like I was saying, the questions that the sister had in Lamentations and in Jeremiah chapter 2 all goes back to the original Babylon and what they did and how they conquered Jerusalem, and going back to how Jeremiah, go to Lamentations chapter 1, right? Lamentations chapter 1. See what verse I want. Lamentations chapter 1 and verse start at verse 1. You can start at verse 1.
All right. This is Lamentations chapter 1 verse 1. How doth the city sit solitary that was full of people? How is she become as a widow? She that was great among nations, princess among provinces.
Mm-hmm.
How is she become tributary?
Right, a tributary. What's that? You got to pay taxes to another nation, right? You got to bring them a certain amount of money every year, right? You're a tributary. Because that's what's going to happen when we come back in power. Lord willing, we amongst that number.
Okay.
We're going to have the nations pay tribute to us. They're going to have to pay us. Right?
That's right.
Go ahead, read.
Verse 2. She weepeth sore in the night, and her tears are on her cheeks. Among all her lovers hath she none to comfort her.
Right? It said among all her lovers, she had none to comfort her, right? So hold this and go to the book of Ezekiel chapter 15. Right? Ezekiel 15. No, I'm sorry. Ezekiel 16. I think wherever it speaks about Ahola and Aholabah. I think it's Ezekiel 16. No, I'm sorry. Ezekiel 23. Ezekiel 23. Because this is what it says. Jeremiah said, her lovers, she hath none to comfort her. All her friends have dealt treacherously with her. They are become her enemies. So watch this. Ezekiel 23, verse 1.
Ezekiel 23, verse 1. The word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother, and they committed whoredoms in Egypt. They committed whoredoms in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and there were they bruised to the teats of their virginity. And the names of them were Ahola the elder, and Aholabah her sister, and they were mine, and they bare sons and daughters. Thus were their names. Samaria is Ahola, and Jerusalem Aholabah. Verse 5. And Ahola played the harlot when she was mine, and she doted on her lovers, on the Assyrians, her neighbors.
You see that? That's Samaria. Samaria is the northern kingdom. That's Israel, right? And so what happened to them? They were taken down by the Assyrians. Go ahead.
Verse 6, which were clothed with blue captains and rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding upon horses. Thus she committed her whoredoms with them, and all them that were chosen men of Assyria, and with all on whom she doted, with all their idols she defiled herself. Neither left she her whoredoms, brought from Egypt, for in her youth they lay with her, and they bruised the breast of her virginity, and poured their whoredom upon her. Wherefore I have delivered her into the hand of her lovers, and to the hand of the Assyrians, upon whom she doted.
You see that? Jump to verse 11. So that's dealing with Ahola, the elder, which is Samaria, Israel, northern kingdom. He delivered her into the hands of her lovers, the Assyrians. How did they love the Assyrians? Through their idolatry and things like that, right? Go ahead, verse 11.
And her sister Aholabah saw this. She was more corrupt in her inordinate love than she, and in her whoredoms more than her sister in her whoredoms. She doted upon the Assyrians, her neighbors, captains and rulers, clothed mostly gorgeously, horsemen riding upon horses, all of them desirable young men.
Because here's the thing, the Assyrians tried to take down Judah, but they couldn't. Go ahead.
Then I saw that she was defiled, that they took both one way, and that she increased her whoredoms. For when she saw men portrayed upon the wall, the images of the Chaldeans portrayed with vermilion, girded with girdles upon their loins, exceeding in dyed attire upon their heads, all of them princes to look to, after the manner of the Babylonians of Chaldea, the land of their nativity. And as soon as she saw them with her eyes, she doted upon them and sent messengers unto them into Chaldea. And the Babylonians came to her into the bed of love, and they defiled her with their whoredoms. And she was polluted with them, and her mind was alienated from them.
You see that? So again, all of this is poetic, right? And so when you have Lamentations, Jeremiah is making lamentation and using a little poetry with it. And then here you have Ezekiel that's speaking about Aholah and Aholabah, right? And what they did and how their whoredoms caused them to go into captivity to these lovers. Go to Jeremiah chapter 6. Jeremiah chapter 6. No, Jeremiah chapter 3. I'm sorry. Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 6.
The book of Jeremiah chapter 3 and verse 6. The Lord said also unto me in the days of Uzziah the king, Have thou seen that which backsliding Israel have done?
Backsliding Israel. This is speaking of the northern kingdom. Go ahead.
She is gone upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there have she played the harlot.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, after she had done all these things, turn thou unto me, but she returned not. And her treacherous sister Judah saw it.
Right. So you have Israel playing the whore, and the Most High saying, "Return unto me." When you read about Jeroboam, when he first became king, what did he do? The first thing he did was think an evil thing and say, you know what? Y'all can't go down to Jerusalem, because if y'all do, then your hearts will be inclined unto the king, and I can't have that. So he set up the golden calves, man, and sent Israel into idolatry. And this is what happened because of that. Go ahead.
Verse 8. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also.
Right. Her sister Judah feared not and went and played the harlot also. Right. So this is what this is talking about right here. Go to Hosea. Hosea chapter 1. Hosea was the last prophet sent to the northern kingdom. And this is what he said. Hosea chapter 1 and verse start at verse 2.
The beginning of the word of the Lord by Hosea. And the Lord said to Hosea, Go, take unto thee a wife of whoredoms and children of whoredoms, for the land hath committed great whoredom, departing from the Lord. So he went and took Gomer, the daughter of Diblaim, which conceived and bare him a son. And the Lord said unto him, Call his name Jezreel, for yet a little while, and I will avenge the blood of Jezreel upon the house of Jehu, and will cause to cease the kingdom of the house of Israel. And it shall come to pass at that day that I will break the bow of Israel in the valley of Jezreel. And she conceived again and bare a daughter. And God said unto him, Call her name Leruhamah, for I will no more have mercy upon the house of Israel.
And when you read that name in the Hebrew, Leruhamah, it means no mercy. Go ahead.
But I will utterly take them away. But I will have mercy upon the house of Judah, and will save them by the Lord their God, and will not save them by bow, nor sword, nor battle, by horses, nor by horsemen. Now when she had weaned Loruamah, she conceived and bare a son. Then said God, call his name Loamah,
Loami.
Loami, for ye are not my people, and I will not be your God.
Right. Loami means not my people, right?
Or not a people, either way.
Right.
Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass that in the place where it was said unto them, ye are not my people, there shall it be said unto them, ye are the sons of the living God.
Go ahead.
Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel.
Right. Now hold this and go to the book of Ephesians chapter 2. Ephesians chapter 2, and verse 11.
Ephesians chapter 2, verse 11. Wherefore, remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands, that at that time ye were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel, and strangers from the covenant of promise, having no hope, and without God in the world. But now, in Hamashiach Yahushua, ye who sometimes were afar off are made nigh by the blood of Hamashiach. For he is our peace, who have been made both one, have broken down the middle wall of partition between us, having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to make himself of twain one new man, so making peace, and that he might reconcile both unto the Most High in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby.
Right. So it says, it said he mentioned what it says about reconciled again. Read that part.
Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 16. And that he might reconcile both unto God in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby.
Right. He brought reconciliation for both houses. Both houses. He brought reconciliation. And what does reconciliation mean? The restoring of friendly relations.
Right.
The restoring of friendly relations. You can't reconcile with someone you don't know. And in Amos chapter 3, the Most High said, you have I known of all, you only have I known all the houses of the earth, right?
Okay.
So go ahead. Verse 19.
Verse 19. Now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of God, and are built upon the foundation of the apostles and prophets, Hamashiach Yahushua himself being the chief cornerstone, in whom all the building fitly framed together groweth unto a holy temple in the Lord.
Fitly framed together, right? So point them one head, right? They're going to appoint themselves one head, like it said in Hosea. Let's go back there. Fitly framed together. Read verse Hosea 1 and 11 again.
God, Hosea chapter 1, verse 11. Then shall the children of Judah and the children of Israel be gathered together and appoint themselves one head, and they shall come up out of the land, for great shall be the day of Jezreel.
Right. Great shall be the day of Jezreel. Now, jump to Hosea 2 and verse 20 and verse verse 17.
Hosea chapter 2, verse 17. For I will take away the names of Balaam out of her mouth, and they shall no more be remembered by their name. And in that day I will make a covenant for them with the beasts of the field, and with the fowls of heaven, and with the creeping things of the ground. And I will break the bow and sword and the battle out of the earth, and will make them to lie down safely. And I will betroth thee unto me forever. Yea, I will betroth thee unto me in righteousness and in judgment and in loving kindness and in mercies. I will even betroth thee unto me in faithfulness, and thou shalt know the Lord. And it shall come to pass in that day, I will hear, saith the Lord. I will hear, saith the Lord. I will hear the heavens, and they shall hear the earth. And the earth shall hear the corn, and the wine, and the oil, and they shall hear Jezreel. And I will sow unto me in the earth, and I will have mercy upon her that had not obtained mercy. And I will say to them which were not my people, thou art my people, and they shall say, thou art my God.
Now watch this. Go to the book of 1 Peter, chapter 2, and verse start at verse 5.
This is the book of 1 Peter, chapter 2, verse 5.
Mm-hmm.
Ye also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house and holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God by Hamashiach Yahushua. Wherefore also it is contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Sion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded.
Right, because guess what? A wise son buildeth his house upon a rock. Right? He builded his house upon a rock. Go ahead.
Verse 7. Unto you, therefore, which believe, he is precious. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner, and a stone of stumbling, and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto also they were appointed.
Go ahead.
But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should shew forth the praise of him who have called you out of darkness into his marvelous light.
Go ahead.
Which in time past were not a people, but are now the people of God, which had not obtained mercy, but now have obtained mercy.
And we just read that in the book of Hosea. And when you go back to Hosea, it tells you who those people are. That's why it's important that we read this history and we get a firm understanding of what is being spoken about, right? Because when you get to this New Testament, go to Romans 15 and 4.
Gone on a while. Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the scripture might have hope.
You see that? Patience and comfort of the scriptures, right? Because when you pick up this Bible and you go straight to the New Testament, it's cool because you can pick up the Bible and read from anywhere. But you got to understand the New Testament is as it is written. It's always going to go to things written aforetime. Because when the apostles, the disciples, and all our forefathers were walking the earth at that time, there was no so-called New Testament. Everything was aforetime. And so Paul is showing you who this people is, right? Who these Gentiles are. And it goes all the way back to the very beginning of our history, right? When the kingdom split and our people start going off into idolatry. That's why when you get all these parables that Yahushua spoken, and then you see the same thing Paul's talking about, the prodigal son, Romans 11, it's the same thing. He just wrapped it up differently, right? And he goes on to show you who these people are, right? We just can't be ignorant of that mystery. And so that's why it's very important that when you read this history, you read it to seek understanding as well. Because when, again, you pick up this Bible and you get into the New Testament, especially the epistles, things can be very, very convoluted. And you can start thinking one thing when it's actually another thing, right? So let me see if there's any more questions before we close out.
And if I may just add,
Go ahead, Salak.
In the New Testament, so in these epistles that Paul is writing, or Peter is writing of, you got to just think, why are they referencing all of the information from the past history? Because they're calling the people or their audience to remembrance of who they are by giving them the history of their past and letting them know that the prophecies of Yahushua coming in order to join the two sticks back together, to join the nations back together and appoint the entire house of Israel and the house of Judah under one head, under one king. That's why they keep referencing in all of the epistles and all of the letters of the apostles, the books of the apostles, they're constantly referencing back to the Tanakh. They're constantly going back into Torah, reminding them of laws that they're supposed to keep. They're constantly going back into the Tanakh, revisiting past histories of what happened between themselves and also what happened between them and the other nations, in order to give them a foundation to stand on, to cause them to bring them back into their remembrance of who they are and what state of mind that they have to come back to in order for us to come back into rulership. So you really got to think about that. But most people who are taught that they should start reading the Bible in the book of John, they're told that so that they're ignorant to what really happened in the Old Testament and in the Apocrypha. So they're thinking about, oh, this is talking about everyone. When it says all, it means all. But no, you have to think about the audience and who exactly it is that this is speaking to. And with that, I digress, King.
Khan, all praise to the Most High, man. Beautifully said. But that was it for the questions. So there are no more in the email. So Most High willing, as you brothers and sisters are studying throughout the week, you'll send questions in, so that we all may be edified. Unless there are any more questions, I'm going to say Shalom, happy Sabbath. And Most High willing, I'll speak to brothers and sisters again next Shabbat.
All right. Shalom.